transmitted to the Congress, and the Congress must accept, and then the acceptance finally happens, and law becomes law. Jurisdiction is ceded to the land that's ceded for the land use purpose of the described purpose. I yield.
Now, yeah, I understand what you're getting at, but I'm just talking about an operation of law. Under the Supremacy Clause, it's pretty much understood that the federal Constitution is the supreme law, but it is a contract of limitations telling the government, the federal government, to go here and not go here. Okay, they can go over here and do these things they're allowed to do, but they're not to go over to this area. And then you've got the 10th Amendment. So technically, under the 10th Amendment, couldn't the states supersede what the federal government says?
Well, that is something that has been expressed. The states.
I mean, for example, you got the Commerce Clause, one of the most powerful parts of the Constitution. And then you've got, about the 10 or 12 Social Security zones, about the Buck Act.
Sure.
Couldn't a state just pass a law and that says and nullifies the Buck Act in their state, or nullifies the Social Security zones in their state because of the 10th Amendment?
So let's see. These are great questions, and I'm gonna pull it up here so I can.
Because I can only see the Supremacy Clause going so far, and if the states decided to exercise their power under the 10th Amendment, because they are the sovereigns according to the Constitution, and what we've been discussing, can the federal government really dictate everything to the states? I don't think the federal government can.
Well, I'll tell you right now, it could be a declaration of war that they see it as, but I believe that the states have a lot more rights than believed. And then on top of that, I want to say that I believe a lot of people in those states have given up state rights over a period of time through their legislation and their acceptance of gifts from the federal government.
Yeah, and yeah, they're kind of yeah. So my wife looked up the definition. My wife looked up the definition of a concubine. It's a mistress.
I didn't have to look it up.
Yeah, she said it was a mistress or a whore. Well, you look at the federal funds, the states have pretty much whored themselves out.
Really, a concubine is really just a mistress. It's a person that is below the status of a wife, and a man who cheats on his wife with that person so they cannot have a legal marriage. But I learned what a concubine was by watching the television show MASH many, many, many years ago.
Oh, don't show.
Yeah, MASH.
Well, I think it's more involved than just that, because of if you look at David and Solomon in the Bible, that they had concubines. They had many wives and concubines.
Just missing the title. That's the way I see the states. They're just missing the title that, and they're just being used, and their peoples are being put up for these bonds.
I don't think they're really being used. I think the states are complicit. I mean, if you think about it,
absolutely, yes.
They know about the Buck Act. They know about the Social Security zones. They know what's being done to the people. Nobody can prove to me otherwise. If you get into politics, if you're new, like if you're new in you get elected into the state legislature or to Congress, you may not know this stuff. But
Is that AOC's problem?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
but if you get in there for any length of time, trust me, you're going to learn this stuff.
Yes.
I mean, do you remember back when Texas? This was this was after the TSA was instituted, and Texas was going to pass a law because the TSA was so out of control. They were going to pass a law to kick the TSA out of the state of Texas. And Obama pretty much, it was never reported in the mainstream media. It was only in the alternative media that Obama said, go right ahead. You can do that. But you will have a no-fly zone. There will be no planes in or out. And they had jets on the tarmac ready to launch in the surrounding states. I said, please, Texas, pass the law and expose these people. They never did. They backed down. That's why I say the states are complicit. The federal government is basically, they bully their way around. If you want this money, you do our bidding.
So can foreigners, like let's assume they did pass it, can somebody from China come to the U.S. without going through some cruel people like TSA?
There's people that do it all the time.
Well,
They
the
have the right
private,
credentials.
but not everybody can afford to pay $9,000 an hour to charter a plane, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, when it comes to a private plane, you're right. But it's not necessarily whether or not you have a private plane. There are people that fly on commercial planes and they don't get messed with if they have the right credentials.
What do you mean by that? Like diplomats?
Could be.
Is it the pre-TSA check, like the one where you pay the 5-year subscription?
That I don't know nothing about, but I know that I just know there have people that they don't get messed with. Now the TSA has backed off a lot, and they're not doing a lot as bad as they used to because they've got comfortable in their job. But yeah, Eric, he posted a link in the group about Texas and that law.
Did it go through their Senate?
What do you mean?
Like, did they vote on it to pass it?
Yeah, it had to go to the governor's office to sign. The governor backed down and wouldn't sign it. And there wasn't enough to veto his lack of signature.
I mean, if he signed it, the criminals will make like the airports boom in Texas.
No,
No?
that's not even a good argument on why you shouldn't have the TSA. I mean, think about it. How did we do it for decades without the TSA?
Well,
All
obviously,
the TSA was a federal takeover of the airports.
right. It only existed after 9/11. Pre
Yeah.
9/11, people could take bottles of water and a lot, like, I think they could take some weapons as well, but not like guns.
Well, we used to actually carry guns to school, and we didn't have school shootings. See, anytime, I mean, a lot of those arguments about, oh well, we do this, well the criminals will do this. That's all. That's a logical fallacy. The
Well,
criminals will always find ways to do things.
brother Brian.
Yeah.
Where I'm at in Colorado, I grew up carrying guns and knives to school, and in middle school, which was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, we had gun lockers. And if you brought a gun to school, you had to put it in the gun locker. That was the local policy of the school. And you can relinquish and they'd put it in the locker for you.
And when I was in school, when I got to high school, that was really the tail end. That's when everything really started happening with the changes in the gun laws. You would have some country boys driving their pickup trucks to school and have a rifle in their back that window. I mean, and it wasn't really long after that when everything started changing, and you didn't see school shootings.
So then, what causes school shootings? Just because we talk about them all the time?
No, gun-free zones. If you're going to have a mass shooter, where's he going to go? Where there's no guns.
So does that mean if, let's say, Biden signs an executive order eliminating all the gun-free zones by tomorrow, they won't happen?
If he signs an executive order, what?
Eliminating all the gun-free zones by tomorrow.
He technically has no authority over the states.
Let's say he does. Like, would that eliminate the school shootings?
Potentially, yeah. That's one of the things a lot of the people have argued is, look, if you get rid of these federal laws that made the schools gun-free zones, you wouldn't have the school shootings.
Yeah, some malls as
Not,
well. The DMV
yeah.
is the...
I'm of the personal opinion, give everybody a gun. I don't care what their background is. In about 2 weeks, all the idiots will be dead, and we'll have a polite society after that.
Yeah, and if you see some of these cowards that have done it, they're surprised and shocked. When people come against them. Yeah, if you point a gun at someone, people get angry. If you try to take a hostage, they are going to try to take your gun. Don't you think you're just bolstering? Because people's brains click in and out of survival mode, and you start doing dumb stuff, and these people never expected to be shot, never expected to be confronted. Of course they knew it was a gun-free zone. It's a soft target when it's gun-free zone. And yes, in middle school, we brought our rifles in from the back of our pickup trucks. In high school, we kept them in our pickup trucks.
So you're telling me, as a 17-year-old, you had like a rifle?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I usually had two of them, one in the back window, and then if you had a bench seat and a seat cover, most of the bench seat covers come with a rifle sling, and you slide your rifle in, open up your door, and you slide your rifle in and slide it out.
Did the girls have guns on them in the school?
Look, girls.
We were taught. All of us, boys and girls alike, had to pass hunter safety, and all of us had to shoot and qualify both a rifle and a bow and arrow to pass 8th grade, or you couldn't pass 8th grade. And we shot at school, and we shot bow and arrows at school and rifles at school.
What state were you in?
Colorado.
Because we did hunter's ed, but we didn't have to shoot. But of course, I'm in a family of hunters, so I learned how to shoot on my papa's farm.
Now, Alice, you talk about women. I'll tell you what. You go look at the statistics. Women typically are better shooters than men are.
Yep, low center of gravity. They're better. Yep.
Why is that?
Low
Lower
center of gravity
Their
and
weight distribution.
weight
Well,
distribution. Yeah.
peripheral vision is different. Men have more of a tunnel vision and women have more of a peripheral vision.
Yeah.
But that's obviously generally speaking. It's not absolute, right?
No, the statistics are. It's been proven that on average, women are better shooters than men.
Well,
But for some reason, most of the mass shooters were men. So
Well, if you really want to get into brass tacks, when it comes to the mass shooters, how many of them was staged?
ouch.
that's a good
Ouch.
question. So
All of
How
them.
many? Most all of them have been staged. And staged doesn't always mean the government did it themselves. If you
well,
look at, if you
uh-huh.
look there, you remember the guy we called him Carrot Top, the one that shot up the movie theater, and I can't remember the other guy's name right off the top of my head, but there were two shooters. The movie theater guy was the first one, and then there was a school shooter after that. They happened to have the same freaking Air Force psychologist. What's the chances of that?
And
One
they're
in a
probably on
Find a
the same,
little,
probably on the
you,
same prescription medications too, right?
yes, you find fingerprint evidence all over the place. And what I call fingerprint evidence is certain little facts that the media don't talk about up front that comes out later, where you can cross connect all these players to certain things. I mean, look, you name the major event in this country, and I can just about guarantee you it was staged.
like Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook was staged, yes.
And it's funny how some of the background characters show up in other events as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the name of that lady that was in the background of 9/11 busting shooting in Nebraska?
Yeah, the Asian woman.
No, she's not. She's white.
No, the teacher at the Boston bombing, and then no, she was a teacher at Sandy Hook and a runner at the Boston bombing, and she died at both places. I've got that picture saved.
Died at
This
both
was
places.
Yeah, she died at she was died or injured at one and died in the other. But the
Crazy.
mainstream media put her face on TV in both places. Name the event, and I can tell you, somebody said, well, somebody the other night we was talking, we got into 9/11. Well, the first time it happened was in '93, and I said, and that's proven to have been staged.
Well, the thing is, was it staged by Bush or by the 19 hijackers?
Blaming the press. Well, okay, you want to talk about the 19 hijackers? 15 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. So why didn't we go after Saudi Arabia? Because Saudi Arabia is an ally. It wasn't about Afghanistan. Why did Bush
it was what?
sign the? I said it wasn't about Afghanistan. Bush signed the orders to go to Afghanistan the day before 9/11. Who was Osama bin Laden? His CIA name was Tim Osman. Guess where he was at the day before 9/11? He was at a CIA base getting dialysis treatment. Okay? He was getting dialysis treatment because he had Marfan syndrome. The average lifespan of Marfan syndrome is 5 years. Obama didn't kill Osama bin Laden. That's a bald-faced lie.
Yeah, he was dead already.
He was dead at the beginning of 2002.
The guy that was in the videos doesn't even look anything like him.
Yeah, and Biden don't look like the Biden we knew.
Yeah, maybe all of them are fake, especially with the deepfake technology. I can talk and make it look like
Exactly. Yeah, with the
Biden.
technology they have today, man, they can do anything, and especially if it's just online.
Now, Eric, we talked about states' rights. You remember Oklahoma City, don't you? What was the big thing going on around the time of Oklahoma City that the media don't talk about? States' rights, the states' rights movement.
There was also some reason why it was the Oklahoma building that they bombed. What records
Oh
were there?
yeah, that was the investigation material against Bill Clinton and the drug running out of Mena, Arkansas.
Building 7, right? All the
Oh,
Didn't they have a bunch of
that
case
was
files, FBI case
that was
files?
that was 9/11. Okay, we're talking that was
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's the same thing over and over.
Well, yeah, look at the spot of the Pentagon that got hit. It just
They're not
happened
very
to be
smooth
the
criminals.
office. No, because they know the masses will fall for anything they put on TV.
What about the Pentagon again? There was an echo.
The exact office that got hit by, and it was not by a 747, it was by a Predator drone. The exact spot that got hit at the Pentagon was the office that was investigating the $2.3 trillion of missing DoD money.
And that was a Stinger missile that hit it, not an airplane.
No, it was a drone. The only piece of engine hardware they found was the center column of the turbine, and people have compared the picture, and they said the only diagram that it would match was a Predator drone.
Amazing. So all those parts that are laying around are from the drone? They didn't like drop all the airplane
pictures of parts.
No, I know. There's barely anything.
That's right. And they want you to believe that, oh, the wings folded up and went into that little bitty hole.
All these amazing, like, cartoonish type scenarios, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Same thing where they hit the towers and basically the plane's incinerated, right? Like, okay.
Now the towers, I do believe planes hit the towers. Now some people don't, but I don't think they were the commercial planes. I think they were military C-130s, remote control. Because any of the video evidence, they're not white like civilian planes.
But they have like those transponders underneath for the remote control.
Yeah. They've been able to remote control jets since the 1960s.
Yeah, there's a whole report. Allegedly, one of the guys that was on I think he was in the administration during 9/11.
And
he was all behind that in the Air Force, like developing it.
Yeah, and the phone calls that they said were made, they had to come out later and said, "Oh no, we didn't have the technology to do it at that time." It was like 3 years later, and Bush had said something about it, and they had to stop him. Look at this amazing technology. We finally can use cell phones on a plane.
Why do we have airplane mode on?
I know, right?
Still can't use a cell phone from a plane. It's fucking 2022.
Oh, you can.
It's called Wi-Fi. It's called Wi-Fi calling. All the phones now come with Wi-Fi enabled calling.
Well, I'm saying like from a cell tower. Like you can't use the cellular on the phone.
Well, the plane can connect to the satellite, which means you don't need the ground.
Yeah, but that's Wi-Fi calling because they have a Wi-Fi transmitter that it's connected to the data stream that way.
So yeah, you have an internet connection. That's all that matters.
Through Wi-Fi, but they didn't have Wi-Fi back then, did they?
But the phone calls they said were made the day of 9/11 didn't get made because it didn't have the technology.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Cellular. It wasn't Wi-Fi.
Yeah, there ain't much about 9/11 I don't know. It took me 5 years
Yeah,
before I woke
9/11's a
up
trip,
to it.
dude. That's like a deep, deep rabbit hole, man. Because there's so many different angles, and like
Well,
that
there's a lot of
lady that
lies.
believes it was, yeah, like satellite, directed energy weapons. I mean, some
There's
people
some
think it was a
evidence.
mini nuke.
There is some evidence of DEWs. That is true. Look at some of the cars that were burned.
Yeah,
How did
right.
they get
That's what sold me on it was the cars.
They've been using directed DEWs for years.
Yeah, like those campground fires in
Yep.
California. Come on.
Yeah, the trees didn't get burned, but everything in the house got incinerated.
How bizarre.
It's definitely microwave because think about it, you ever put like metal in a microwave and see what happens? Like
No,
that's the result.
I don't think
You don't
it's.
think
I
it's
don't. I
microwave?
think it's stronger than microwave because microwave won't melt metal.
Like
Microwave,
nanowave?
it's a lot stronger than microwaves because how? Look at any normal house fire. Bathtubs don't burn up. Refrigerators might melt some, but they don't burn up. The cars, you can see that some of the parts of the cars melted. You know what I'm saying? We're
Yeah.
talking about something stronger than microwaves.
Like nanowaves or something.
That's the Paradise Fire. Go look into that.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to follow the transmission line of like the transformers or the phones or some shit. It's weird.
No, it's if you go and really research the Paradise Fires, what was going on that they were trying to get all that stuff cleared out, get the people out. It's because China was trying to put a freaking high-speed train up there. They had to get all those people out from that area so they could put a high-speed train up there. So, oh, oops, we had a big forest fire. Oh yeah, right, for real.
So did China build this train yet?
No, Trump put a stop to a lot of that. Now he didn't stop everything China did. He just said if you're going to do it, we're going to protect our interests. And then the whole system come against him, but that's a whole other subject. But back to the subject at hand on the Constitution. Hey, Eric, here's one for you. Have you ever looked at the Constitution of Alaska? Eric.
Guess that's a no. What about
If you go read the Constitution of Alaska, it's technically not a state. It's still a federal territory.
I heard some element of that any so-called state besides the original 13 colonies is a federal territory.
No,
No?
not it's not the case in every instance. But Alaska, from what I've talked to people about that live up there, they said, yeah, it's still a federal territory. They have tried to become a sovereign state. The feds won't let them. Why do you think? Because there's a lot of oil under that ground.
And it's not right next to Russia, so
Yeah.
they better have control.
Shoot, I saw information a while back that Arkansas owned Missouri.
So
So
how many
states can own other states?
Yeah, it was based on an act where Arkansas paid the debt of Missouri for something, and the home office for Missouri was in Little Rock, Arkansas.
That's pretty interesting.
So how many
Yep.
states do we have? Actually, it's not 50. How many?
Supposed to be 50, but what's supposed to be and what is always a gray area.
You know, Obama say 57 or some weird thing.
No, he's counting the federal jurisdiction, the territories.
But like, if we take away Alaska, that's 49. If we take Missouri, that's 48. So, is there more states that we think
I
they
never
are
said
states?
Missouri wasn't a state. I said it was owned by Arkansas.
So it doesn't have its own sovereignty, right?
At that time, it didn't. No. According to the Federal Acquisition website, I think Kentucky is owned by California. I'd
Did
have
you
to go back and
say?
look at that one.
Did you say
What'd you
federal
say?
acquisition?
Yeah, it's under the federal acquisition laws.
No, there's a website on federal acquisition.
Yeah,
What is it called?
I'd have to go find it.
Let's see.
They have to
Federal.
get what adopted into the union to become a state, right?
No, this was only since the 90s.
How do they become a state?
Under the old ways, they become a state by petitioning Congress and agreeing to the contracts.
It's about this requisite filing, and the requisite filing there would be done by the territorial government and the territorial governor explicitly. I yield.
Here you go, Eric. Here's the one I was talking about. That Arkansas is owned by. Missouri's owned by Arkansas. Look at that.
Interesting.
I have a feeling that this is tied to the territorial treaty.
Well, it's under the federal. Let's see. Save image.
Because it's a different trust. Remember, they just gave back a bunch of lands to the native people in Oklahoma, I think it was, in the last, 2-3 years?
FPDS.gov.
FPTD.
F. Frank Paul Davis Sierra.gov.
FPD.
Federal Procurement Data System.
.gov. Federal.
Yeah, you can go search. You can do searches on the Federal Procurement Data System.
Hey, Pastor.
Yeah.
Hey, when you get a chance, text me her number, Dee's number.
Dee? Okay. I'll send a V card.
You're awesome. Thank you.
But that's the link for it right there. You can go look up Missouri and then just start scrolling through, and you will find that screenshot I shared.
So,
See,
do you
things
think
don't always
CC
work the way people think.
Do you think D.C. is still owned by Maryland or Virginia?
No, it's owned by Britain. Go
Yeah.
read the Treaty of Paris. The King George said in Article 1, the states are sovereign, but go read the Treaty of Paris. You know, the United States was bankrupt after the Revolutionary War. There was a treaty called. There was a truce. We didn't win the Revolutionary War. Okay, both sides wouldn't give up, and it just got to where it was so expensive that both sides said enough. The Treaty of Paris was done, and because of the bankruptcy, King George said, "Hey, let me have D.C. I'll leave the states alone."
And everybody gave up everything at that point in time.
No, they didn't.
I read the Treaty of Paris the other day after our conversation about the W7.
Yeah, Article 1 declared all the states to be sovereign. So the sovereign people of the states, that's why if you look at Article 2 in the North Carolina Constitution, it's talking about the people of the state are sovereign. Okay?
Is
In
it
other
a big
words,
P or a little p?
Is it what?
A capital P or a small p?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, websites, it doesn't matter.
No,
What are you
I'm
talking
talking about
little p or big P?
you said the sovereign people. Is it
It's
written capital P, a proper noun, or just a small p?
that part I don't get into.
Because they can determine, like, is it a specific people or is it everybody else?
Yeah, the
people of the
capitalized one is
state.
the group.
Yeah, it's the people of the state. That's why you can't. That's the reason why it's hard to sue the state. Who is the state? The state is the people. We're not talking about the representatives. It's the citizens of the states.
Shane,
guess
I
they-
don't see her.
I guess they could argue semantics on that one because, like, people of the state of whatever is kind of, a group in and of itself. So they wouldn't have to lowercase or capitalize.
Go read U.S. versus Anthony from 1872. The judge in that case really does a good job explaining the different citizenships. Then go read Chisholm v. Georgia and Hell versus Hinkle. Chisholm v. Georgia was the first Supreme Court case. Hell versus Hinkle was in the 1990s. The citizens of the states or the people of the states are sovereign. Problem is the people have forgotten how to act like it.
Sorry about that, Vox. I don't think she shared it to the group. She only shared it from her personal page.
What?
And talking to your wife.
Is no worries.
Okay, honey.
We've already congratulated Randy.
I'm sorry. I was trying to get you in there.
That's all right. I'll spend more of my husband's money later.
It is quite a,
your wife is her new best friend.
It is quite a Gordian knot they've tied, though, because it's hard to get to the root of the matter.
It's not that difficult. It's like everybody was saying, after Trump, that he dissolved the corporation and brought back the republic. No, he didn't. The republic's always been there. It's not that difficult. What's supposed to be the foundation? The foundation is your constitutions. You got two of them. Carl Miller. Look at Carl Miller. Carl Miller preached that. You got two constitutions. Nobody reads them, and they're supposed to be the most important documents.
For the United States.
You got a constitution for every state.
Yeah, the United States, though.
You've got two constitutions you should be studying.
But what about the United States of America?
The federal constitutions, you mean?
No, you've got two constitutions. Your state, which applies to you, and the federal constitution, which applies to who? The parties to that contract, which is your government at the state level and the federal government.
Hey guys, I know it's a pain in the butt, but if you're not talking, try to mute yourself. It is echoing.
I mean, so it's
Didn't
not.
mean quit talking.
How does the state constitution even apply to you, though? Because isn't that for the representatives of the state?
No. That's the contract between the people of the state and the representatives. Are you know, look at all these people out there teaching, change your status, change your status. What do they talk about? Citizenship, right? Well, I've already proven you might not be a U.S. citizen. That means you're a citizen of the state, because that's a birthright. A birthright can't be taken. It can only be waived. If you want that principle, go to Esau in the Bible. What did Esau do? He waived his birthright for a bowl of porridge. So that's where the problem lies. It isn't that your status has to do with anything in citizenship. It doesn't. Status actually has to do with competency. Are you competent to handle your affairs? And right now, the federal government says you're not, because you haven't proven otherwise. And that's why I don't listen to most gurus, because most gurus are teaching the wrong thing. Somebody the other day asked about
Or they ask about?
Somebody asked me in the chat here about do I agree with Boris and that territorial jurisdiction is a thing? To me, yeah. Why? Go back to the founding of the country. What are the states? You know, there are 50 countries. Yeah, you can question Alaska later, but under the normal rules, what is it? You have 50 sovereign nations. We have a State Department, not a nation department. State Department is dealing with sovereign countries. Okay? And those sovereign countries have their own citizens. And then you have a compact between the states and the federal government, which created a federal jurisdiction. And guess what? That jurisdiction is foreign to the 50 states. So to me, territorial jurisdiction does matter, because which jurisdiction are you operating in at the time you're operating? Right now, I am in commerce because of what I do. So under the supremacy clause, who has the authority to regulate what I do? The federal government. The state has limited rights to regulate commerce, but they can't supersede the federal, because why? That is the federal government's exclusive rights, and that goes into their territory. Territory,
That's
another
the
way to look at
question.
territory
What's
jurisdiction
their
is
territory?
What's their territory? That depends on which part of the Constitution and laws you're talking about. What was the purpose of the Commerce Clause?
I guess to regulate commerce between the free and independent states.
To make sure that they played fair, right? Why? The founding fathers just come out of what was going on in Britain and England, and what was going on. They were getting taxed to the hilt in England, and they couldn't make things here in the colonies. Okay? So to keep that from happening in the United States, they gave the federal government the exclusive jurisdiction to regulate commerce between the states, to make sure one state didn't tax the next state into bankruptcy. Power to tax is the power to destroy. So when you ask what is the territory, that depends. That depends on the act. That depends on which part of the Constitution. That depends on which United States. That's a lot of depending statements there. That's why I stress people should read their constitutions. And I say that plural, not singular. AJW. By the way, JW, I'd like to see where you got that from, a credible source, because I went through every IRS manual all the way back to, I want to say 1957 without going to go look. And the phrase, the term, infant decedent does not show up. And on Westlaw, the term infant decedent is actually across the entire database of Westlaw. There ain't but a handful of things. And just the term infant decedent, when you just look at the logic of the words, how does a dead thing be a grantor? A decedent is something that's a dead thing.
Isn't it something that's dying?
What's a decedent? It doesn't mean dying, it means dead.
It depends on the definition you look up.
Let's see.
Seen definitions in the state of death or dying.
In everything I found on infant decedent in the regulations, it has to do with a minor that was deceased. Due to the actions of one of the parents or another party.
815
815 what?
cases on Westlaw.
Oh, containing the term infant decedent.
Yes.
Now, if you look up in the top right of your screen, since you've got that open, you see there's 3 buttons up in the top right?
Yeah, and filter or sort by.
Hit filter. Now you see the second row down, it says cases.
Yeah.
Tap on that.
Oh my God. Okay. Never mind.
That's what I need. That's what I was telling you earlier. I needed to show you because see, you can get to the
Yep.
administrative
Statutes
decision.
and court rules, 48 of them. Is secondary sources, 2,200 of them. Yeah, I got you. Practical law 1, regulations 2, briefs. Yeah, form 65. Got you, buddy. Got you.
Administrative decisions and guidance. I mean, you've got all of that.
Ins and outs.
I just missed
Briefs.
it. What do I need to do to catch up? I just missed it, and I wanted to follow along.
I had mentioned something JW posted earlier, a few days ago, about an infant decedent being the grantor.
Yeah.
And I said, and it was supposedly out of the Internal Revenue Manual. Well, according to Westlaw, I can go back through the Internal Revenue Manuals, I'm thinking all the way back to 1957.
I believe
and
so.
And nowhere in the Internal Revenue Manual does the phrase infant decedent ever come up in any of them. So I want to see a credible source where that infant decedent in the Internal Revenue Manual comes up saying that the infant decedent is a grantor of the trust.
Yeah.
Because here's the problem I have with that. How does a dead thing, because that's what a decedent is, be a grantor of anything?
Now, thing is property.
A thing in legal definitions is actually rights and interests, but I'm just saying a decedent, what is it?
Yep. And I believe you that you didn't find it. I'm going to do a search on my PDFs of the same. What did you just show? What did you just show? What did you just walk somebody through?
Westlaw.
Shane has access to my Westlaw. Okay?
Oh, good. Okay, good.
So he's having to learn his way around it. So I told him,
oh yes,
all he's been able to see thus far, because he don't know how to work the menus, is court cases. So I just walked him through how to get to the other sections, and he was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, I love those secondaries because that's why it took me 5 years to learn all that jurisdiction. Because there's so many cases you have to read. It's like, oh crap! And if you don't read it, it's hard to comprehend what is going on.
Yep.
There's a reason why they spend so much time. It's time. Yeah, it's time consuming.
Yeah, it says here. And I just did a search. It's IRM 21. It says an infant is the decedent of an estate or grantor, owner, custodian, or truster or of a trust, guardianship, receivership, or custodianship that has yet to receive an SSN.
Yeah. Now, well, what he had posted was it said that the term infant decedent is the grantor. Okay. Now, so when I did a search in quotes for the term as he wrote it, infant decedent, it never come up.
Yeah, it doesn't say infant. It just says an infant is the decedent, not infant decedent. Like,
okay, now if the infant is the decedent, it still goes to what I'm saying. If the infant is the decedent, how does something that is deceased be a grantor of anything?
Must have granted it before death.
How does an infant grant anything before death?
Right.
An infant is someone that is incompetent. Someone that's incompetent can't grant anything. And the Internal Revenue Manual, there's actually a court cases, if I'm not mistaken, there's a court case that even says you can't even rely on that. It's just, you can't even rely on the Internal Revenue's own stuff when it comes to tax law. Somebody posted that in Floyd's group.
It's pretty funny.
Now, I didn't do a search for infant and decedent. I just did a search for infant decedent. That was it. Because that was how he wrote it.
That's a valid point. How does an infant grant anything?
Well, I have much respect for JW. I do. I respect his intellect. I mean, I won't deny that. Okay. We just have a disagreement on on one thing. He says the mother was the grantor. And I say, no, it wasn't, because the mother signed a contract before birth giving up the infant to the state, which means it becomes a ward of the state, and the state became the grantor of the trust. And then if you get into the two products of conception, the infant being the placenta and the baby not being recorded, then you get into the whole thing of how can the mother be the grantor? Because the dispute is who owns the name. His argument is that the mother's the one that gave the name. Well, yeah, but my argument is gave the name to who? By the laws, the mother gave the name to the infant. That's the reason the hospital forces the paperwork to be filled out, because the contract was signed before birth. So the state can't own people, aka the Northwest Ordinance. So that means what? When she took the baby home, she never recorded the baby. The baby's an unnamed person. And then if you look at the footprint documents, the average person that has them, just like my daughter, we got hers the other day. She's 12. That document, it's not even named. It just has my wife's maiden name and baby in front of it. But the rest of the documents have the name we supposedly gave to her.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's not crazy when you put it in the context of what the government admits. When you put it in context of what their writings say, then it starts to make a lot of sense on what they did. Move. Come on.
Yeah. Guess there's a reason they call it code, because it's got to be deciphered.
No. Void for vagueness doctrine. Any law has to be written in such a way that the common people can understand it, or it is unconstitutional and unenforceable. So the presumption is that every single one of us common people have the ability to understand it. The problem is We make it difficult. I mean, the void for vagueness doctrine, when I learned that early in my journey. Well, that principle's played out kind of in the Bible. What did Jesus do? He put the child on his lap and said, what? You're to come at God the same way this child would. What does that child do when you tell him something? Do they explain it away? Do they make it hard? No. They take you at your word. And yeah, we've got to learn how to read. That is true. But that's why I tell people, get your hands on every dictionary you can get your hands on. Look up words. You have the ability to learn and understand, just like I do, just like anyone does. I mean, everything in this system of government has to do with agency. I mean, it really, when you get down to it, a legal fiction is nothing but a piece of paper. A trust is a piece of paper. It can do nothing without agents.
Everything needs animation.
It needs an agent to act. You might call the agent a trustee. The judge, that office called a judge, is nothing but an agent of the piece of paper that's called the state of whatever. The CEO is the agent for a piece of paper that's called Microsoft Incorporated. That piece of paper will lay there and collect dust if nobody accepts the offices and acts as agent. That's one reason I tell people, learn the law of agency first. That's the foundation. Yeah, territorial jurisdiction is true. But if you're going to act in commerce, you're going to be in the public. That means you're going to have to act as an agent, and you're going to have some vehicle to operate in front of you that you're the agent of, so that way you can avoid liability. And then you compare all that to how the elite do everything, and we're the ones that's making it difficult because the elite, this is how they live. Their families are in the private. How are they in the private? They have trusts, they have S corps, they have LLCs, they have incorporations, you name it, they use it all. And that way they only act as agent. And as long as they follow the rules as the agent is never liable. The principle is those legal fictions they set up that owns all the property, manages all the property. They just get to play with it all.
So the agent is the grantor, huh?
Never said the agent is the grantor, did I?
You said the government is just a piece of paper that can't, unless there's agents animating it, then there is
Let me
nothing happening.
let
They
me
sit there and
let
get
me
their dust. So that
let
means
me answer
you're
your
saying there's some
question.
agent.
Hold on.
So ergo, admit it. Ergo, that means you say some agent was the grantor of our ecclesiastical trusts.
Where's your
Not.
first-hand knowledge that it's your trust? No, you laugh, JW. I'm asking a serious question. Okay,
You
because
know,
here's
I already
why.
have. You know, I have deeds. I've already ran it through the
I
paper. You
know
didn't
that.
show up. I was first in line, first in time. It was created for me. I have a deed for it now. Okay.
I know you do, but here's the thing that I when where we differ is this right here. Okay, I can prove, especially out of Tennessee, because we got hold of the contract that a mother did sign, and it was signed before birth, and we went through the language on that contract.
Could I stop you right there, please? Could I stop you right there? Because I was thinking about it. I just got out of the shower, so I was getting dressed. I heard you mention my name a couple times. I didn't hear everything, but I was thinking about how because you had said the mom signs a contract before the baby's even named or even born, I guess, and that somehow makes
the infant
all
and
none of
baby
this.
are
There's
not
no.
the same
There's look.
thing.
Okay, that's a fine point that really doesn't matter because there's no baby, no infant, no placenta, no cord, and no anything till the day the baby's born. So some contract prior to all that happening, the mother may sign. Okay, so but when you sign it's an application. When you sign a contract to buy a car or to mortgage a house or any other application, you have equitable interest in that matter, and you're the one that granted something. Your name, your signature, your date of birth, social security number, and all kinds of datum that creates data that is used to create the date of birth. It's the data itself that is recorded, and some of the amendment forms even say the date of the event. Date of the event, not date of the birth. When you go to like a California VS-24 form, for instance, and they record events, not people and that sort of thing. But if you want to call that a contract, is all I want to just say. I mean, you get the idea. You get what I'm saying. When you sign a contract, if you give valuable consideration or there's no contract. So what is the valuable consideration that mother's given away in this contract that you don't want to see as a transfer of some kind of consideration that I could call trust res if I wanted to?
You can. That's fine. All I'm saying is here's what it said. It says in there that she gave an assignment over the property, that it was a lifetime contract that can only be withdrawn in writing. Okay? Now,
but how does it make the state the grantor is what I wanted to know.
Okay. The reason the state is the grantor is because why? That contract turns that infant over to the hospital, who in turn turns it over to the state.
Okay, so you're saying that the chain of title for the infant began with the mother, which would make her grantor. Right there. You just said so.
No.
You said the mother turned it over to the hospital. That's what you said, though. That is what you just said, didn't you? I mean, how's that? What do you mean, no? That's what I heard you say. Mother granted over the infant to the hospital.
It doesn't make her the grantor.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. When it goes to the JW, let me explain.
I'm sorry.
She abandoned the infant through the contract. She puts the hat on of custodian, because it says in the codes that the custodian names the child.
Okay, so she had something and abandoned it, right?
That's right.
It started with her. She held everything, right? Out of her body came a placenta, an umbilical cord, and a baby, and all the information on the contract. The state stood by and couldn't do anything because there would be no event to record, no substance, no just forms, not even anything in the form to flesh out the form. Nobody could fill out, sign a name, give dates, state names of parents, anything else. So a grant over adoption of an infant or abandonment of an infant, or the given name to add to the trade name or registered organization name. The surname was already there, right?
Okay.
All that stuff came from mom and dad. Everything. The state's just standing by waiting to record it.
And
They're not
guess what
doing
else
a
the
damn thing.
contract
They're not
says?
adding any substance to it whatsoever. They're standing by, recording the event, and keeping the record, and that's it.
And guess what else the contract says? The contract in it already has the allegations of neglect and abuse, because why? The infant has been abandoned, okay? Abandoned by consent, okay? That means in the codes of the lost infant or foundling, she puts the hat on of custodian. It says in the Kentucky code that you're familiar with, in what is it?
Well,
A
it's a little,
one,
it's a little more.
paragraph 1C.
It is.
It says in C that the institution that it was placed with for care. Well, guess what? You got to look at the contract. What is it being done for? For the care of the infant. Okay.
The infant's
So
not the
that right
baby,
there is
right?
that. Okay.
The
Now,
infant's
not
not
the
the baby,
The
and
infant's
it's not
not
the
the baby.
child
That's
either.
right.
The child is the BC. The COLB is the infant of unknown parentage in the 14th Amendment. The BC is where it has an account down at the county, at the situs where you were born. And it's evidence of your nationality with the 2 footprints. And it doesn't say state of, it just has the name of the state. It's not a federal zone. That's evidence of your nationality, the one with the footprints. And that's the one associated with the account created. So if you want to keep focusing on the abandoned infant that to be adopted, which I've already done by doing the double authentication for adoption in a foreign country, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why there's a little bit of confusion. But the state has
No,
nothing
you
to
got
grant, bro.
certain. While it is in possession of the state, even a probate court judge the other day admitted this.
Sure, it's in the state.
Quietly to a friend of mine,
Doesn't make the state the grantor. They got nothing to grant. There's agents,
they
working
granted.
for a state. So the doctor granted some estate, or did the hospital administrator grant an estate? Somebody up at Vital granted it. Where'd they pull it out of their ass to grant anything to you? Nowhere. Go back and look at that IRS code. What was it? 27.13.7, 21. The one that we were talking about 2 nights
Doesn't
ago.
exist.
What? Well, yes, yes, it does. Yes, it does. How much you want to bet me? I already answered you. What? I copied and pasted somebody's transposition of the .13 and the .7 and corrected it in a further post and answered you when you said it doesn't exist, showing you my correction and with a link directly to it and a quote of the exact paragraph out of Title 26 that says the infant is the decedent of an estate, right? Or the grantor or trustor or that's all right there, and it does exist. You claim that the IRS is incorrect. I think we should examine that code together. That would be very beneficial for all of us. Because there's some very tricky language in there.
Yeah, I posted it up there.
How can a decedent, something that is dead, be a grantor?
Decedent is not necessarily dead, and you know that. It means dead or dying. Deceased means dead. Decedent means there's been no seed yet to the precedent, which was you or the president in another light, say at the post office when you do an address change a particular way. Seed the land, who's the seedent? Yeah.
According to the legal definition, a decedent in Black's Law Dictionary 11th edition is a dead person.
Yeah, well, Black's Law doesn't overrule any local probate codes or the Uniform Probate Code or any other statutes or codes that have their own definitions. I could give a rat's ass what Black's Law says. It doesn't apply in any statute or code in the land. They got their own definitions in their codes, man. Rules of statutory construction don't say for definitions for this probate code, go check Black's Law 4th or 6th or anything else. So why would I care what Black's Law says?
Oh, you can not care. That's fine.
Let's say if
When
you
I
did, JW, where would you go to view that definition? Let's just play it like that.
In the statute itself, primarily, if it's there. If it's not there, then you might have to ask Eric Eckel. Eric knows the rules of statutory construction. If it's not in the code itself, look in, the Uniform Probate Code, Uniform Transfer on Death Code. There's codes everywhere. They have their own definitions. Nowhere in any of those codes have I ever seen them defer to Black's Law Dictionary. Show me the Constitution or a statute or code or a public law or an act of Congress that declares Black's Law ruling and controlling in court cases or legal definitions. Show me where that is. I'd love to see
I
it.
never said it was controlling.
Because I can show you other definitions that are going to say dead or dying. So where are we at now? There's more than one definition. So now where are we? We can look, though, in Title 26 at the definition that they give for decedent that you say didn't exist. And then you said if it does exist, it voids the trust. So I guess we're going to have to go call the IRS and correct them.
If the word decedent means dead, how can a dead
Yes.
person be a grantor of a trust?
Well, you say the government can be, and it's a dead person. So there you go again.
No, there's a difference between a dead person and a civilly dead entity.
So a civilly dead government entity, a dusty piece of paper, as you put it, that unless an agent is the grantor of a dusty old trust. But a decedent can't be, huh? You were the beneficiary from that placenta before you were born.
When I looked in Westlaw for your term, okay, you corrected it. That's fine. Everything I read for the term infant decedent in the federal jurisdiction, okay, means someone that was already dead, not someone dying, someone dead. Every
Someone?
court case, every
It says someone?
decision.
Wait, hold up. It says, wait, hold up. Did you say someone dead or a person dead? Someone?
It meant a dead
Man? A
infant.
dead man? A dead man? You said someone. Does that mean a dead man?
Yes, it was a dead infant. Someone, not someone dying. It was someone dead.
An infant's not a someone. It's a person. It's a person. It's a legal entity. It's an ens legis. It's a.
How do you kill a person?
And so, again, that IRS code, though, I was going to show you the double trick, double speak they're using in there, because the or, everything after the or, to me, looks like if someone expresses the trust. Then, like I said, you said it voids the trust if that code is accurate, what you just posted. Then I says,
What you
no,
originally
the part I posted
yes.
says, the part I posted only mentioned in a state. It ain't a trust until a trust is expressed. But you were the beneficiary of that placenta that kept you alive before you crowned first. You're the firstborn. You're the ain. You're the heir. You're the foreign grantor, If you set up a foreign grantor trust, it's for the ain or for the firstborn. EIGNE. Right, Jolly? I think Jolly's in here, isn't he? Man, you said a civilly dead entity, a legal fiction can't be a grantor. So the decedent can't be a grantor. But at the same time, you want to have it both ways and say, like a constitution or some public policy on paper could be the grantor of something. When it's actually mom and dad come in and bring babies, they bring autographs and life to the forms and skeletons, and they grant information and data to create datum that they enter into their database to create a date of birth. Yeah, baby. I'm not backing down from this one.
You don't have to back down. I don't.
The IRS said so too. Now, you say the code doesn't exist. Somebody said they put it in the chat room. So can we decide whether it actually exists or not?
I said it didn't exist. I said as you originally put it. Okay, you said you corrected it. You shared what you corrected. Okay.
Let's look at it. Yeah, let's look at it because we'll all benefit from it. I'm trying to look at. We're in Basilicos Nomos chat. Is that where? And so it should be the latest post. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at this, you guys. Scrolling down.
One or the other, right?
Well, which paragraph is it? It's too bad you can't link straight to the paragraph. Oh, what am I looking for here? 27.7.13.2.2, I think it was, right? Or something like that. Or 3.2. 7.13.
He posted the link. It's right there in the chat.
Yeah, but it's a long page of stuff, and I'm scrolling. I'm going to have to get Control F. I'll look for decedent. There's the first instance of 19 matches.
I think it's the second.
It would have been better to copy and paste the paragraph, really.
It's in there.
Yeah, is it in Telegram? I mean,
Yeah.
an infant is a decedent of an estate. Or in statutory construction can also mean what? Who knows? Raise your hand. And. At least in the California DMV code, they specifically tell you that. Or means and in their statutory construction for one particular statute in the California Motor Vehicle Code. May or may not mean that here as well. So always keep that in mind. You know, like when I see in 40 Stat 1684 Trading with Enemies Act, it says enemies are natives and resident trustees. So most of you guys are natives, evidenced by your birth certificate with the footprints. But on the post office records, you're a trustee resident. Res-ident, who is temporarily at the state to make money you for running a franchise of the federal government. That's a resident. So you're both. So maybe that's why you're an enemy of the state. Maybe you're double-minded and you got to pick one or the other, right?
Yeah, because you're going to express the trust, so therefore you're going to have a claim. And you might want to pick a side.
It can't be. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men could not put Humpty back together again. They didn't even say which side he fell on. Doesn't matter. It's that he tried to stay on the middle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't sit on the fence.
Don't be double-minded. An infant. Now, remember, 1 USC 8 tells us another. It says every time you see the word person in any U.S. code, it means infant decedent. Right? So that would apply for IRS codes. Well, it does. You got to click on the definition in 1 USC 8 of person, and you'll that's what it says. It's crazy. An infant is the decedent of the state, or grantor, owner, custodian, or truster of a trust, guardianship, receivership, or custodianship that has yet to receive an SSN. So they're telling you right there, or the grantor. So the decedent could be a grantor in the IRS's eyes, or the owner, like Galatians 4 tells us, that though you be a ward now and a slave, what does it say? You are the heir, the king of and the owner of all. Custodian or trustor of a trust, guardianship, receivership, or custodianship that is yet to receive an SSN. Now, what if now these people, like you said, there's baby girl this and baby boy that.
Yep.
On the records as well with a different SSN. So maybe because you used the wrong date of birth when you applied for an SSN, that infant decedent has yet to receive. And to receive doesn't mean See, it might already be created and sitting there. What does receive actually mean? You have to accept, acknowledge, and, apply for and receive. Maybe give a delivery receipt for it,
Which is one of the things I've discussed.
Yeah. It's complicated stuff, but you remember, today, Pastor, I listened again to the call that, I don't know if you ever heard, but it was Daniel Joseph's previous August the 6th, I think it was, call, where Derek Gonzalez popped on at the last and mentioned the abstract birth record.
Yeah, that's the one at the hospital.
No, he said he found it at the county courthouse with all the sigils and seals and signatures of everybody that was actually there, so that it is not double hearsay, right?
Yep.
I mean, the BC also has mom and dad's signature on it. At least mine does. And so she signed in her married name. So that one with the footprints is not a bastard without a blood right of inheritance. The Kolbs, the COLP, and for that matter, if I was going to go, got an echo. If I was going to go do a DS11, my evidence of nationality is the BC with the feet. And sure, they're not for use for identification, but it sure can be used for evidence of nationality. But you guys, most of us would bring a COLB, don't we? And say, here's my, birth certificate. You call it a birth certificate, and it says state of XYZ. So now, what's your nationality? And you wonder why your passport isn't some silver bullet. The COLB, the day that was received by the registrar, they call it the file date, right?
Yep.
The one with the footprints, it says born on mine anyway, and the time and the day and the place. And DS11 has two different people. One's for the person, and one's for the one with a surname and a given name on page 2. I'd show them the COLB for the page 1 person and the BC for the page 2 person.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do we get this the birth record with the footprints?
You have to go back to the hospital.
What if the hospital don't exist no more?
They still got the records. The question is where did they put them? They have to keep those records for 105 years.
I sent in for mine. They sent me a thing back that says I have to get a court stamp.
You're
that says I'm
asking
the
for the
executor of that.
yeah. You're
Whatever
asking for the
it is.
wrong thing. You're asking for the wrong thing. That's why they're telling you that.
What do you got to ask for?
I just tell them the medical files. I said the medical files that for when I was born. Okay, because I got a copy of my footprint document, just that simple. Now my wife, she did the same thing at the hospital. She asked for the medical files and the birth certificate. And they told her they couldn't give her the birth certificate because of the Vital Records Act, whatever it was, of 1952, I think is when it was passed. That they said they have to hold them they can't release them for 105 years. So if you go to ask for the original birth certificate, then yes, they will tell you that. That's not what you're wanting.
You just ask for the medical records. That's it.
Yeah, that's revolving around your birth.
It's too bad you couldn't have jumped into Daniel Joseph's Telegram group on Thursday, Pastor.
Yeah, I was actually, it was getting kind of late, and I was going to, being I do drive a truck, sometimes my schedule's at night, sometimes it's not.
Did you catch the recording?
No, I haven't.
I'll send it to you.
What group is this, JW?
Because, she's having great success, with writing a acceptance and acknowledgement of the grant from the decedent to the grantee. Okay. Who do you think I'm talking about? Who was the first 3 hours of the 5-hour call on Daniel Joseph's special guest on Thursday night, Kiki Liberty?
Okay.
The one who's been teaching name changes and had her since 2016 and has been the leader on this all the way through, her, yeah. The one that's getting court records obliterated for people, stopping foreclosures, doing assignments. And so she's focused mainly on how to do assignments. And, when you have a name change decree, they assigned it to us. It's called a name change of assignment. And now you can be the assignor and make assignments to fiduciaries to do certain things. And that's what the main focus was. But by golly, guess who the grantor is if you're going to have success down at the probate court? It's the decedent is the grantor. Okay? So figure that out. I don't know.
Hey, I'm seeing it this way. Like I said, based on what I'm reading, the infant is the placenta. This is what they say in their codes. And the baby is a second product of conception. The baby went home with the parents, but the parents never recorded the baby.
There's 3 products. Smoking Baby is quite clear. The cord, like I said before, that umbilical cord is one of the 3 products of conception, not just 2.
I know what you're saying, but that's
And
not how they wrote their codes. Their codes only deal with the placenta and the baby. And in some of the states, it has a little causal sentence there that says both products of conception are considered live born. And this is
okay. So how do you know?
Birth registration.
And so how do you know for certain that they're not talking about the placenta on the one hand and the cord on the other? Since they can't record people, it obviously can't be the baby being a product of conception.
No, but if you go read the Kentucky Code in the 4th paragraph, that me and you know which code that is, it says in the 4th paragraph that if a birth certificate, it says if the child is identified and a birth certificate is found or obtained. In other words, it's not talking about if it was lost. It's talking about if the parents ever come forward and claim their offspring. What happens to the record? It gets sealed.
No, well, the child is the birth certificate, not the baby. They're not. They need to claim the birth certificate, not the baby.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if both products of conception are to be recorded under operation of law, what happens? The hospital only records what's in its possession, the infant. If you look at, I don't know. Hold on.
No,
let me finish.
You said they record 2 things, and the only 2 things in their possession is the cord and the placenta. And Smoking Baby had some good sites of authority, and he said that even he went as far as to say that Baby Boy last name was based off the cord, not the placenta, and that it was on a 4th date beyond the filed registration, file date by the registrar receiving it. That's what he said. It's been 2 months since I listened to it, so I'm a little vague on it right now. I should go dig it up, and we should hash it out. It'd be cool if you could jump in.
Yeah, I have, all I'm looking at is the CDC document that lists all 50 states. Okay? And under their birth registration, which are the 2 products they're talking about? Okay? And by their definition explains the 2 products. Okay? One is the baby, the other one is the placenta, and the third sign of life covers both. Okay? And then at the end of some states it says both products of conception are considered live born. Well, I look at my documents and I look at my daughter's documents, who's 12. Big difference there in the span of time. But they both say almost identically the same thing on the newborn identification. The top half deals with the infant. The bottom half is where the mother said, hey, I received my baby and she took the baby home. Well, what never got recorded? If both products are to be recorded, only one got recorded by the hospital, because what typically happens? The hospital won't let you take the placenta.
I don't know about that. Only one. Like I said, I have a birth certificate with footprints on it.
Yeah.
And then there's a certificate of live birth. So there's two different instruments there.
And then there's the BC, right? Another one.
Yeah, the birth. Actually, I think mine says certificate of birth, and the other one says certificate of live birth, which has a whole different definition in the vital records codes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are those the three characters that they represent?
According to the county where I was born, when I played their recordings on the video, I played the phone call. Okay, that record that's at the county is the record that Vital Records and the state owns. So to me, if they own the record, that's the placenta, that's their property because it was abandoned. The baby wasn't abandoned. The baby went home with the parents. The parents just never recorded the baby.
Owning a record means you own everything else, like the placenta? The record of the abandonment of the placenta or whatever, or an event, like say a baby being born and a cord being cut and a placenta being bagged up and saved down at the Smithsonian or whatever they're doing with them.
If I go purchase a car,
the owner of the record to me means owner of the record. If it said we own your placenta, I would say I guess we'd have to look at that and say that they're claiming to own the placenta. But I don't really actually read that into what I just heard you say myself. That's kind of a leap there.
How is it a leap?
Because you just said they claim to own the record, not the placenta, the physical object, the substance.
The record was created because of it, because what was typically left at the hospital. Not the baby.
And who left it? And who left it there? And who created it and left it there? Yeah, not the state.
And the contract was signed before the infant was ever born.
Infants aren't born. Infants are not born. Babies are born.
Yes,
infants are birthed. Okay.
Okay. I understand all that. The point I'm getting at is you're not looking at the contract that was signed before all that, and the assignment that was given, and what was the purpose of the assignment. I did a 3-hour video on this 3 years ago and didn't even at that time know how it fit into all this.
Well, that can fog things up. I mean, if you try to keep it simple and just logical and just look at what the event happened, did the state create a baby or a placenta? No. And if they weigh the baby and do like that amount of gold, then they need a substance. They need the baby to weigh before they could make a deposit into your account that that they don't create. They can't. There's nothing can be done unless some substance walks in and hands over data and datum to create a date of birth. Names, dates, times, places, signatures, and physical objects like products of conception. Those were all brought by mom and dad, not by the state. I'm so sorry to have to burst your bubble.
And into weights and measures, doesn't the COLB say the weight of the so-called child or infant or whatever the fuck is on it?
No, it does
Would that be
not.
the placenta?
I want to interject real quick. The informant abandoned the property and never reclaimed it, and it's as simple as it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah, their property, not the state's property, because the state didn't create any of this. That's like Caesar's face on a
I'm
coin.
not
When you
saying
create the
that.
gold,
I'm not.
Caesar
I've
did
never.
not create gold. Caesar can stamp his
Never.
face on a chunk of gold, but if you melt that gold, where does he go? Shadow title is opposite of title. Legal title is negative title. Beneficiary is regarded as the true owner, right? Because he has manual use, possession, and control. It's dealing with substance.
Well, there was abandoned property, so they made record of it and took care of it until
That's
it
right.
became claimed.
Yeah, they didn't create the property, and yeah, so they couldn't grant a placenta back to to mom. Like, hey, you got a baby, we've got the placenta, we created it, we're going to grant it to you. No,
They don't grant it to the mom. You look
grant it
at
to
any.
anybody,
Listen, JW, stop.
grant it to anything. It's not theirs to grant.
Stop for a second. I never said they granted it back to mom. You go
Okay,
look
leave
at
the mom
any.
part off.
Hold on. Stop cutting me off, damn it.
Well,
I go to speak and you cut me off.
Spirited debate.
You go look at any CPS documents, you go look at any government documents, and they use one of four terms. They call you a parental custodian, parental guardian, custodian, or guardian. And it depends on the state. What are you the custodian of? The record of the abandoned infant. Because why? You never recorded the baby. Brian Parker can tell you this personally. He knows a family down in Florida where he lives. They figured this stuff out, and their fourth child is when they figured it out. And CPS was called. And that agent come out on the fourth child, put their hands on that fourth child's head and said, don't touch this one. It's not our property. I get what you're saying,
well,
JW.
so
I
so
absolutely get it.
hold up here, hold up. You say because a CPS agent doesn't know the difference between a child and someone's heirs and offspring with flesh and blood pumping, because a child's a birth certificate.
I know that, but no,
So just because some CPS agent put his hand on a baby's head and said, this child is not ours, that means that babies are children now? No, not in my book.
I understand not in your book. All I'm laying out.
That's hearsay from a CPS agent. Carries no weight in any court of law,
All I'm doing is laying out the facts of what they did and how things were done. So, and you're wanting to argue with me about it.
You're the custodian of the child, which is the birth certificate, not your babies. But your babies are going to be like surety for them if you don't do your due diligence, yeah. Or if you contract with CPS by answering their questions, not refusing their mail within 72 hours for, frauds and swindles in Title 18, Section 1341 and 2 and 3, etc. You can probably contract into any mess you want to. The door, knock. Hey, the neighbor said blah, blah, blah. Can we come in? And you start answering their questions. Boom, you just granted them jurisdiction. It has a lot more to do with that than whether or not, there's a birth certificate for the fourth child or not. How do those people speak with the agents? You saw how trial Kiki Liberty treated the CPS agent in the hallway of the.
I've never heard of Kiki Liberty until tonight, so that's why I asked who you was talking about.
Well, Hera, actually, there's a video of her with a CPS agent at her door where she smacks down so hard. and says, where's your corporate charter? And contact, well, there's a problem. You are trespassing. You are harassing. This is none of you don't have to courts. You have no authority over me or my children. If you contact me again, I will charge you $50,000. Do you understand? Gets her name. Make sure that lady's just standing there. You've never seen that video?
No,
She
I
runs
actually
with her legs. Now, that's all you have to do. All her kids had birth certificates, but by God, hey, guess what? They never got taken away, even though they did have birth certificates and certificates of live birth. So maybe it's in how you speak to people and whether you let yourself.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that at all.
You need to see that video. Oh my gosh, I'll get that to you tonight.
I mean, I do agree that it does have a lot to do with how you contract with people and how you speak is a way to contract.
Contract makes the law.
I mean, yeah, if they say, do you understand? And you answer yes, boom, you just agreed to a contract. Just like that. You didn't stand under, read, right in UCC, I mean, why do people get overstanding, understanding, and understanding? Never agree, never say you understand because it means you stand under.
No
It doesn't put you under their feet. It just means you agreed to contract with them. Now they do have jurisdiction. Now they're going to give you the whole CPS runaround, and you fucked up in the very beginning. Yeah.
Oh, that is definitely one of my pet peeves. Is that thing that's come around where people say I overstand. What?
Doesn't that make you just want to vomit?
Yes, it drives me freaking crazy. I said, now you're making a word mean something it never was meant to mean.
Apprehend is a safe word to say. I apprehend or comprehend, but I don't understand because I don't agree. How about I ask you some questions? Do you have a DBA for that name tag you're wearing? Oh, you don't? Why is that? Because you don't want to list your full, true legal name on a DBA so I can find out where you live to serve administrative due process on you through no resentment if you harm me or trespass.
Strike, leading question.
Are you bonded? Where's your oath? Questions. Who,
Oh, you want to freaking
at
have
home.
fun in court? Ask a lot of questions.
That's all I ever do, brother.
It'll drive the court freaking crazy. The DA, the judge, everything. But what can they do? You're never submitting because all you're doing is asking questions. You're trying to get understanding. Now, when it comes to the Social Security trust account, I will still say you're the agent because the trustees are listed. I don't see it that you're the grantor of that trust. And if it's their property, and you're the implied agent, act like the agent. Send them their freaking obligations.
Convert it all into a trust would be optimum.
Now that I can kind of somewhat agree with, is you put all the birth certificates, marriage license, Social Security, all those state contracts, and put them into a trust, and then you let the trust manage all of it.
It's an expectancy. It's good for your benefit. It's not to be a trust until you express the trust, and then you can do it for yourself.
You guys, good discussion. I just want to let you know I did a mega drop in the chat, so I want you guys to be sure to download that.
Yeah, you know how long it's going to take me to freaking download every one of those Gilbert Law summaries?
Hold
That's
on, let
great.
me put up my
That's
volume.
a great set of books.
Say that one more time, Pastor.
I said, do you know how long it's going to take me to download every one of those Gilbert Law summaries? Oh my gosh, that's a great set of books.
It is. Enjoy the PDFs because you can do searches of the whole thing. I'm gonna put them into a portfolio soon. So,
Cite your authorities, the king of data.
absolutely, of authorities.
Now, what is that 1957 book?
The report,
Yeah, what's the title of that?
the jurisdiction report. You mean?
Yeah, that.
I don't know. Let me look.
It's the 1957 report on jurisdiction over federal areas within the states, or something
There you
like
go.
that.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
If you want to spend the money, go look it up on Amazon. You can get Volume 1 and Volume 2 for about $150, leather bound.
Yeah, that is what changed my life. It was over 1,800 pages, and it took me quite a while to debate myself through it and to look up all the sources. But it literally is the key to everything in jurisdiction. But I also put Beyond the Constitution annotated table of additional resources I posted tonight. This will blow your minds. What I did tonight is more than most. Yeah, God help me if refining the trim tab actually reads this stuff. They might actually start to teach the principle.
Wow, Beyond the Constitution annotated table of additional resources. I never knew that existed, and it's right there on the government's website.
That's what I'm saying, brother. People don't realize the amount of work I've done to be here.
Look, I've said it before. You're ahead of me in a lot of areas. I've been doing it 10 years over 10 years. And I'll tell you now, I look at it, I haven't even scratched the surface. Because Westlaw taught me one thing. The amount of information I've got access to, I could stop working today if I could afford it and just spend every waking hour reading in there. And I never read it all. Law is just that expansive. That's why you need to learn the principles. If you learn the principles, you can navigate everything else.
Let me ask you, man, if you weren't there when that decision was made that you found in Westlaw, is it double hearsay?
I don't know. I don't say double. I say possibly hearsay because you didn't witness it.
Yeah. That's something to think about, too. If they try to use some judge's prior opinions against you and the lawyer that's bringing it into your case wasn't there, it's hearsay.
Well, that's why you should always object to anything an attorney says. Trinzi versus Pagliaro. If an attorney cannot testify because he has no first-hand knowledge.
That's hearsay on top of hearsay, then.
No.
It's
hearsay what the attorney says, not double hearsay, because he has no
He's
first-hand
presenting
knowledge.
evidence, and he can't testify on his own behalf, so that's hearsay and more hearsay, right?
And so how in the heck does anybody ever get foreclosed on when all they had to say was, I take exception, Your Honor, this man speaking here is not sworn in. Anybody's offering testimony. If it's firsthand.
Why they foreclose? There's actually a couple different reasons.
No, I'm saying the reason. I don't know. I'm not talking. That was only in reference to why people would let themselves be foreclosed on by people who bring hearsay and who weren't there and are not allowed to testify. Under the rules of evidence, they should shut their mouths or sit down and swear on the Bible and give their firsthand testimony that they saw the signing of a mortgage agreement or anything else, which they won't have.
Yeah, that I agree with. Because if you don't object, it becomes fact of the case. And hearsay can become fact of the case if you let it.
Right? Like a fact is only what everybody agreed on, not necessarily the truth, right? In
That's
law.
right. That's right. So how do we declare we are alive?
All right, I finally found it. Basilicos Nomos chat. Here you go. Here's a kick-ass. Somebody want to play this? It's only 3 minutes long. Want me to play it?
You can.
Go for
it. If you guys, you're going to love this. Yeah. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to share screen. Okay. I guess Telegram chat. Screen one. What's that one? I don't know. Let's just try this one. Share screen. Then if I hit play, is this going to play? Can you guys just look like it's going to play?
Yeah.
I'm recording this. Okay.
Are you hearing that or seeing it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So I don't want you here. Okay. Is it you that called?
2 people. I was one of them.
Okay. So I don't recognize you. I'm not in your jurisdiction. Don't come here again.
What do you mean by that?
Don't come here again. Okay. I'm recording this.
All right.
Dana, you said it was?
No, it's Kate.
Kate, don't come here again.
So the problem...
There is no problem. The problem is that you are trying to trespass on my property. Don't come here again.
I'm not trying to trespass.
You are coming here and you are attempting to trespass here. Don't come here again.
I'm attempting to schedule a time to meet.
You are attempting to trespass, okay?
It's lagging.
There's nothing that we need to discuss. Where my port is perfectly fine. Don't come here again. Stop coming here. I'm giving you notice right now that if you call me or if you send me anything in the mail, you will be charged $25,000 every time you do it, and you agree to pay by doing so. You are being given notice.
That's not
That is true.
the issue.
Damn lag. I don't know what that's for. Must be archived. Haven't played it in a while.
I actually
Come
agree
on.
with stuff like this.
Come on. Oh, it's glorious.
And I promise you that you will be charged. Okay, where's your...
Damn it. Three minutes turning into 5 minutes here. Jeez. Oh well.
Charter.
I don't know.
You have to file a corporate charter in order to operate as an agency.
Well, you're trying to download it. You're trying to download it through Telegram and broadcast it on Telegram. So that's probably part of the problem.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. You get
But
the idea.
what she's doing there is the same thing John Eric Roca does whenever they tell him he has to go to court. He sends them a freaking written notice of what his cost, what his price is, because why? Slavery is illegal, so my time is valuable. And John said every time they send him a letter back saying we don't need your services.
That was Kiki Liberty there, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Years ago.
Yeah, I believe I've seen that one a while back.
That's how you don't contract. If she would have answered any questions, you know. She besides not contracting, she told her, if you contact me, you agree to pay $25,000 every time you do it. Do you understand? Glorious. I loved it.
Now, I know that we talked about putting everything in trust. I think a trust is a good thing. But I know me and Dee's been talking, and her grandmother, the way she did things, she didn't put nothing in a trust. Well, she did, but not the way you think. She always expressed the
I
trust,
didn't.
appointed a trustee, and she retained
Right.
the benefits and use.
Yeah, that's all I meant. I mean, you don't have to have full-fledged everything else. Trusts are on the as-you-go basis, just like any constructive trust at every court case and so on. If I go in and sue the chief,
you know Dee's story, don't you?
I accepted the chief's oath of office, and told him that I'm just using my automobile. I'm not the owner, but I do use it, and it's harmful to the beneficiary to not have it, and I need it back. And I had it back 3 hours later. So, it's not like I transferred into my living trust that I got an EIN for, that I moved into my estate EIN under my living trust, revocable trust EIN, and then merged them with an 8832, and then my foreign granted trust, and I moved the titles into there. No, I expressed a trust on the fly, like you're talking about. No, D. Bradbury or D. Emerald? Or
D. Bradbury.
Bradbury. Okay, cool. Yeah, she's pulled off some great stuff.
You know about her grandma, right?
No, I don't know that I do.
Her grandma did private banking, and she didn't know it until later in life. And so she's been reverse engineering everything her grandmother used to do.
Oh, girl.
Yeah, her grandmother was a first generation immigrant here, and she didn't work a job. She just understood the system, and she wrote her own promissory notes, sent them to the private side of the bank. They took them to the treasury, sent her the credits, deposited in her account. She had what she needed. I said, holy crap. But no, Dee, she's doing some amazing stuff. Me and her's been talking lately. I've been sharing some of the stuff on Westlaw with her because there's some great stuff on there where things are already written up. All you got to do is modify the language, like forms and templates, because this stuff is maintained by attorneys. So it has all the right language and everything in it. You just got to modify it from the public side to the private side. Let's see, am I going to get there in time? Yeah, I think I will. I'm going to actually make it to the Petro.
Hey, Pastor.
Yeah.
Along with those posts is an Excel, if you have Excel, of all those citations in that jurisdiction web page.
Oh, that web page, that Beyond the Constitution?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's an Excel spreadsheet?
It's an Excel spreadsheet with all the citations of law. 514 of them.
I can believe it.
This is all.
That's a lot of court cases to read.
This is all.
And you know that right. See, those few documents you're talking about on jurisdiction, you know, if you don't know where to look, you'll never find them.
Nope.
Because I've been all over Westlaw trying to find something about jurisdiction.
They button that stuff up. They don't. You have to know where to look. Yeah, you have to know. Oh, they do. Well, that's the key, and this is what people don't realize is, we are going to get through this together. Period. That's all there is to it. We have to do it together. All of us have a part and a piece.
Yeah, we all have a part to play. Yeah. I mean, look, some people hear me and JW go at it, and yes, sometimes we get heated, but we respect each other. I respect JW.
Listen, I don't know how many times I've gone over and over and over with JW, and this is why I like him.
I do too, and
that's
and
exactly why I like him, because he believes in what he comprehends and he stands on it. And you need to sway him, or you don't have enough facts. And of course, we all have our idiot moments where we're acting like an idiot. But besides that, he's one of the most valuable players out there that I know, because he's got the heart in it.
Yeah, but that's the point that I'm getting at is not every single one of us, any of us, have all the answers.
Nope. Doesn't work
I look
that way.
at things. Each of us have our own rose-colored glasses. We look at things a certain way, but we all bring something to the table. That our little part,
Yeah, it's amazing how those little parts add up, though.
It is.
Yeah. Well, enjoy those posts. When you finally see them, you're going to shake your head.
Oh, I saw it when you posted those 400,000 books.
400,000. My goodness.
I mean, I need to
guys.
I gotta have a day off just to download them all.
Yeah. So when I learn stuff, I make tools to help me learn, and so I make all these portfolios of data, and then I search them for keywords and terms that I know are used in law, and then I spot read sections of all that mass material. So I could literally go through all those books in 4 or 5 hours and have read all the pertinent citations.
Hey, I'll tell you somebody to check out on YouTube, not pertaining to law. You ever heard of a guy named Jim Quick?
No.
Jim Quick had a head injury in his youth. So he was learning disabled in school. Okay. But he, through personal contacts of people he got to know, they had such an impression on him, it changed his life. And what does he teach now? He teaches people how to train their brain to speed read and remember what they read. And it blows me away if you watch any of his presentations on YouTube, how fast he can go through. He advertises you should read a book a week.
I love this guy, dude. I love this guy. He's awesome. Yeah, I was like, who? And as soon as I saw his face, I'm like, yeah, that dude. Yeah, I've seen your drops before on this guy. I love him. Yep. And you can get fast.
It takes practice. Your brain is like a muscle. You have to build it up.
I can only tell you that that's what happened to me, is I used it and used it and used it. Yep.
You learn how to do those things, and yeah, you can get to where you can read a lot quicker. It just takes practice. And your brain is like a muscle. You know, when you first get into this, I know I've talked to people. They said, "Yeah, I first got into this. Reading gives me a headache." Well, it's because it's no different than lifting weights. You're working those muscles out, and what happens? Those muscles get to where they hurt. You're building um, neurons to be able to remember this stuff. So it's not a surprise. But the more you do it, the more you're going to be able to do it. That's one thing. The wealthy elite, they read all the time. They don't go home and watch football. They don't go home and watch sitcoms. They read, and they read a lot.
You know, that's a great, I love that. That's exactly what they do because they're busy expressing their trust and, you know, managing their wellness. It's
The
fascinating.
wealthiest people in the world read. Look at most of them. They have huge libraries, and they've read almost every one of the books they've got.
Yes, and children are taught to read and are forced to read certain literary works as when they're young to open their minds. You know, absolutely.
Well, the education system today frustrates the children to where when they get older, they don't want to learn. They're taught to regurgitate. And that's one thing we see in this community is a lot of regurgitation instead of, that's the reason why when I'm teaching people, I show them where I get the information from, and I tell them, go read it.
Absolutely. That's why when people say anything about me personally, I know it's wrong because all I do is cite my authority. All I do is bring the truth. Here it is. It's not my opinion.
Yeah, you'll never go wrong sticking with their writings and their words.
Every
Because
time.
they're beholden to those rules, so you might as well learn them. I'm going to throw you back here in the back, Cat. I know you want some attention. Cat at night wants, like, hey, she says, pet me. She gets up in my lap, wants to get on my nerves. Shane, he has private citizen. Some of y'all don't know him as Shane. He's actually now got access to my Westlaw account. He's like a kid in a candy store, trying to learn how to use it. He's like, where do I go look? I said, you do what I did. You just go look.
Having fun playing with it.
Do what?
I said I'm having a ball playing with it.
You know what I used to do with it? When I first discovered Yusufel, I was going behind him on everything he was saying. I go to Westlaw and look up what he was saying and see if he was right. Eventually, I just got to the point where I just started reading secondary sources, American jurisprudence, reading their manuals, their whatever, and quit looking at whether or not he knew what he was talking about, because these secondary sources are all written by attorneys and they'll tell you everything if you know what you're reading. It's like, everybody talked about there was a point in time where the 1099 OID was real popular. And Yusufel was telling people, go read the court cases. He said, one thing you'll never see in the court cases, you'll never see the judge say that you can't do it. But what you will see is either they inflated the numbers, or they were teaching classes and not reporting the income. They were doing things trespassing on the government's rights. The judge never said it was illegal for you to do the 1099 OID. But people would always go to those cases and say, see, this person went to jail. Well, all you're doing is looking at that one person situation and thinking that's how it's going to be with everybody, instead of saying, wait a minute, what is the judge not saying? Because what he's not saying is sometimes more powerful than what he is saying. And then if you get one of those really great court cases where the judge goes on a teaching rant, oh, those are great. Let's see, how far away am I? 54 miles. That puts me 796 miles. I will be there Monday morning, depending on how South Florida looks after the hurricane. What do y'all think South Florida looks like? I'm going to Miami.
I think that you got to go around the Cape a little bit, because I think the interstate got over flooded and is still that way. So you got to make a reroute to get back on the interstate after like 20 miles or so.
What, down there near Miami?
Yeah, I think it's about 50 miles before there.
What about the turnpike?
I think the turnpike is still open. I think it's south of everything.
Well, I know they're going into Miami for about 30, 40 miles. The turnpike runs parallel to 95.
I'm up in Bay County, so I'm about 500 miles away, but that's just from what I was looking at this morning.
Yeah, they wanted me there tomorrow night, and I told them this morning that ain't happening, because when they loaded this truck, they loaded it too heavy on the front. I was 36,000 pounds on the drives. I said, I can't haul this. Y'all gonna have to fix it. So I wasted freaking my morning dealing with that. So I gotta be in Miami Monday morning, drop this trailer, and then bobtail up to Georgia and pick up my trailer. My trailer's in Valdosta, Georgia, sitting at a Sam's Club. So if their power went out, they could use the reefer and keep that food frozen.
So you just drive them up and switch them out and make another delivery?
I've been running power only for the last week. I dropped my trailer almost a week ago down in Valdosta, Georgia at a Sam's Club. They were Walmart, Sam's Club, Costco, restaurants. They were, when a hurricane's coming in, they'll actually put out a call. We need trailers, people that can drop refrigerated trailers, you know. And if the power goes out, they load all the food onto the trailer, so that way that it doesn't go bad, because it runs on diesel. So Walmart basically paid me to drop my trailer for 5 days, plus a delivery and pickup fee to use my trailer for the frozen food. So that way they had trailers there they could put all the perishables on so they don't lose that product. So I said,
Little
shoot, they're
backup
gonna pay me.
plan.
Yeah. So they paid me $2,600 for 5 days use of my trailer. I've been running power only, pulling other people's trailers, taking them here, dropping them there, pick up another trailer, drop it here. That's what I'm doing with this one. It's a load of bunch of different products, taking it down to a hub down in Miami, dropping it there, and then unless I can get something that's pick up in Miami and deliver in North Florida, go straight through, I'm just going to bobtail up to Georgia and pick up my trailer.
Sounds like you're tripling up on a circle. I like that.
Hey, they got my trailer. That don't mean I'm going to sit on my butt and not make money.
If you come near Bay County, let me know. We'll meet for a cup of coffee or something.
I probably will. Ain't that off of 75?
75 is about 2 hours from me.
Okay, I'll be coming right
I'm
up
on the
75.
west end. I'm kind of right in the middle between Tallahassee and Pensacola. I'm in the middle.
Okay, I know where you're talking about. My sister-in-law's moving right outside of Pensacola.